Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Five Questions with Paulists. I'm Mike Hayes. And yeah, this is kind of going back home again because I'm going back to Busted Halo where, things happened for me way back in the day. And Mary Kate Polanin, you have essentially my old job. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Yeah, I mean, I'm working and part of the ministry that you helped create. Not only that, but we have the same birthday. So it feels
Right.
like a little bit of destiny.
Exactly. We'll have to do this again next year on our birthday and have cake and things like that. That would be great.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's great. Question one, right off the top. What's one way or one thing that Busted Halo has done that you felt really helped young adults in this pandemic?
Great question. I think one of the things that we've really tried to do to speak to young adults, in addition to everybody who is going through a time of like spiritual, maybe either dryness or just feeling disconnected from their spiritual lives, especially during the pandemic with churches closing, is we've created a great roundup of our resources that we've called Keeping the Faith in the Time of Coronavirus. And it's just a great list of articles and podcasts and videos on Busted Halo that help address some of the things that people, including young adults, might be going through. Like a great example I can think of is we had a writer reach out to us and share his story of getting married during the pandemic and how his wedding, they had it perfectly planned, and then they had to replan it to accommodate for, a safe wedding that would keep everybody healthy, but still have a really beautiful sacrament of marriage. And I think his story really touched a lot of people. We got a lot of comments saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to share this with my daughter. I know people who are going through something like this." And I think that's definitely a topic that a lot of young adults went through, especially last year, having weddings planned and having to reallocate everything.
Yeah, I shared that one a lot myself with folks who I knew were planning weddings. So thanks for that. Question two, you are a voracious consumer of podcasts. What's the one that got you through 2020?
Gosh, do I have to pick one? I love podcasts. I would say one of my favorite that I've listened to through 2020 and even now in 2021 is an NPR podcast called It's Been a Minute. It's hosted by one of their NPR employees, Sam Sanders, and he does this really beautiful job of covering the news like coronavirus or the election in 2020, but really through a very human angle. So he talks about dating during coronavirus and how to preserve your mental health during the election. But my favorite thing about him is that he was raised Pentecostal and he has since, left the church, but he's very honest in speaking about his faith. And he'll just occasionally, not all the time, but just occasionally talk about how he turns to God in prayer, especially during difficult times. So he really just keeps it real. I really appreciate his
Yeah,
show.
no, that's great. That's one I didn't know, so that's great. Number three, your favorite comfort food during the pandemic?
My favorite comfort food would have to be popcorn. I love air popped popcorn. My roommates actually, we all love it. And for my birthday, I bought myself a whole variety kit of different things to spice up my popcorn because I was doing a lot of like butter, salt, and pepper. So I wanted to mix it up. I got a spicy cheddar. I even got a birthday cake mix. So I'm excited to dive into that this year.
I'm dieting, so you're killing me, but I really want to get birthday cake popcorn now. So question four, you're a longtime New Jersey defender. So two obvious questions. What exit and what's your favorite Springsteen song?
Well, of course, my exit was when I grew up in Chatham. My exit was exit 7. But now that I live in Hoboken, I'm the very last exit at Jersey City to get into Hoboken.
Correct. Yes. And Springsteen.
And my favorite Bruce Springsteen song, it's a classic. It's Rosalita, but for a very special reason is that one side of my family, we play that song at every single wedding. And I even have a family friend who's known for taking the microphone from the wedding band to sing Rosalita. And it brings down the house every time. If any of my family members are watching this, they know exactly who I'm talking about. And it's one of my favorite parts.
If I were in the home office, you'd see my Thunder Road sign in my room. And Thunder Road's too easy to pick, right? So I'll take 10th Avenue Freesound.
Oh, that's a good. They're all great.
They're all great.
It's really hard to go wrong.
Hard to pick one, right? And then 5, live streaming mass for young adults. Did this hurt them, help them, and long term, are they going to come back when it's safe to do so?
It's a lot of questions. So I think to answer the first question, did it hurt or help? I don't think it hurts ever to make the word more accessible to people. Ultimately, when you're live streaming the mass, you're getting the word and that liturgy. It's a great way to connect with either your parish that you might miss, or you can visit another parish that you don't get to go to physically. Ultimately, you don't get to participate in the Eucharist. And so that's definitely for young adults who had that as a very regular part of their spiritual lives, myself included. I definitely found myself noticing that was something that was missing. And even just noticing that longing is something that I think can help people reflect on their spiritual lives. But I think, will they come back? It's interesting. I listened to one of these, a great OSV talk about that exact topic called What If They Don't Come Back?
Yeah, that's great.
And I think people who, again, young adults like myself who were regularly attending Mass, and that's part of their spiritual lives and they have a community, once it's safe to do so, I'm pretty confident that they will come back. But when it comes to young adults who maybe were like on the fence about going to church, and once it's safe to go, they're still wondering if that's the right thing for them. I think a great question for people who might be wringing their hands and saying, what if they don't come back is, how am I going to invite them back, or who's going to invite them back? Because I was chatting with a friend about this just yesterday, is that I think due to the pandemic, we're all uniquely in the same scenario of looking around and maybe saying, it's been a little bit since I've been to Mass, like, oh gosh. And so how do we take that excitement, if we're excited about going to Mass, and kind of use that to like really initiate conversation, say like, hey, I'm really excited to go to Mass. Like, maybe you want to come with me, or just tell a friend like, oh, it was so good to go to Mass again. And maybe if they hear that excitement, it's something that they might consider.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know that for myself here, that's a question we've been asking here in the diocese. And I keep hammering, how many people did you connect with from that live stream that you were doing every week? And parishes sometimes don't have a good answer for that. Sometimes they have a great answer. Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, we've been doing it. I know for myself, like I've like really chatted with people during the live stream on the side, and heard their prayers and maybe followed up with them afterwards. And so I felt, community is present. It's virtual community, but we forget that's still community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's 5 questions. And Mary Kate Polanin, hey, happy birthday, by the way. A little late, but we hope that we'll see you again soon. And thanks so much for joining us here on 5 Questions.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.